Hello folks, and welcome to this week's Hi-Fi News, etc. And before we do that, let's go for trivia. Now, last couple of weeks I've been looking at trivia based around literature. Well, I'm going to have a change in that. It's going to begin with another L, but not literature. We're going to look at the law. And our question relating to the law is, which of the following never did jail time? Okay, and here's a list for you. Hugh Cornwell, the ex-lead singer of the Stranglers; Johnny Cash; Chuck Berry; Notorious B.I.G. and James Brown. An intriguing collection of artists, I'm sure you'll agree, and I will give you the answer to that at the end of the video. For now, let's look at some news. We'll begin with the Korean company HiFi Rose and the all-in-one RS520. This is an all-in-one network audio streamer, which includes a built-in network player, a DAC, and an integrated amplifier. It's one of those just add speakers kind of things. Now, 4 surfaces of the housing are made up from solid pieces of aluminium, done so to reduce the risk of vibration and standing waves. On the front is a large multi-touch LCD screen measuring 12.6 inches wide, and that's mighty big indeed. It has a resolution of 1920 by 515. Transport controls can also be found on the top of the RS520. HiFi Rose's Android-based operating system supports a local storage device, such as USB, micro SD, or SATA. The Rose operating system also features built-in apps for Tidal, Qobuz, and Apple Music. Elsewhere, the CD and CD ripping apps allow you to attach any standard external CD-ROM drive for CD playback or to rip CDs through the touch screen interface. The radio and podcast apps also give you access to live radio and podcast databases, while Rose Tube gives you access to YouTube for music and video playback. Rose OS also offers support for Roon, Spotify Connect, and AirPlay. In addition to the analog line input, there's also a digital coax, optical, and USB inputs, as well as a HDMI eARC input for controlling your TV sound. For a connection to a wider system, in addition to the speaker binding posts, there are also options to connect to an external amp or a DAC, as well as the HDMI output for watching video content on a connected screen. Inside is an ES9038 Pro DAC chip alongside a femto clock and a Class AD amplifier, pushing out 250 watts. Price for this lot is £3,399. Next, we're looking at Falcon, who have some new speakers for us. I have, I think 2 to tell you about right now. The first one is the M10, a 2-way stand mount speaker, and the top of the range M50, a 3-way floor stander. 2 of these, well, they're the first of 5 projected new M range models scheduled for launch within the next 6 months. The 2-way vented M10 model features a 5-inch Falcon B110 bass unit, which replicates the original KEF B110 used by the classic BBC LS3 5A monitor. There's also a 25mm soft dome tweeter made to Falcon's specification by CEAS. It's available in natural walnut veneer with rosewood as a special option. The three-way vented M50 design features a proprietary Falcon B139 base unit, twin Falcon B110 mid-range units, and the 25mm M-range custom soft dome tweeter. The M50 is also available in natural walnut veneer with rosewood as a special option. Prices, well, the M10 in walnut is £2,395. The top of the range M50 in walnut is £12,795. And the availability of the pair, the M10 should be out now, really. The M50 won't be out until December 2022. Next up, we have more speakers from the Danish company Jamo? I'm not sure. I'm going to call them Jamo. They've got something called the Studio 7. Studio 7 is Jamo's new range of passive loudspeakers. There are 6 in all for 2-channel use. The new line owes its name to the 7-degree tilt to the cabinet. Why the tilt? Why is the cabinet tilted? Well, according to Jamo, apparently the acoustic centers of the drive units are time aligned. Tilting just helps to minimize those timing anomalies, so it improves sound apparently. Now, the Danish outfit includes a new 1-inch fabric tweeter that features a waveguide and a copper Faraday ring for increased sensitivity. Now, we talked about the treble unit. The mid-bass unit features embossed paper cones plus an aluminium shorting ring to reportedly lower distortion. The cabinet sports round edges and helps prevent colouring of the driver signal. And the cabinet, well, they're fairly thick at 15mm. And they are critically braced, which apparently helps the bass response, while the crossover is actually sealed in the cabinet to isolate it from the rest of the gubbins inside, again, to lower noise. The colours of these speakers find inspiration from natural phenomena. For example, dark blue has been inspired by the Norwegian fjords, which sounds extremely Monty Python. Also, the grey finish, well, apparently that's been inspired by the hue of the fog hanging over a forest in Finland. You heard it right. Created by Ross Lovegrove, the same designer who created KEF's Muon speakers, these over-the-ear wireless headphone designs are available in silver grey and charcoal grey, not a finish wood or forest or fjord in sight, apparently. Based upon an aluminium construction, memory foam ear pads, and both passive and active noise cancellation, you'll also find a swivel point above the ear cups, which allow the headphones to be rotated and flattened for transport. There's a capacitive touchpad on the right ear cup that allows you to answer calls, skip tracks, and adjust the volume. Inside, you'll find 40mm full drive dynamic drivers, and the MU7 supports Bluetooth 5.1 and a thing called clear voice capture, which means phone calls have a clarity all of their own. You can use these headphones for up to 40 hours from a single charge or 8 hours from a 15-minute fast charge. For those who prefer wired playback, a 3.5mm audio connection is also available. Price £349. That's your news. Let's go to viewer questions. We will dive into our first question, which has been presented by Yardbirds777. That must have been an interesting christening, hey? And Yardbirds says, love your phraseology. Do you know phraseology is on my CV? And your humour. And thanks for all the info you give. Upstairs, we have my beloved Trio Stroke Kenwood KD 1033 turntable with 1990s Sony amp and CD player. Downstairs we have the same Sony amp and CD player, but with a Sony PSLX 210. I hear your cry of horror. Planning to replace it, but with what? I'm mainly rock, but I've recently got into 78s and was thinking of buying an Audio-Technica AT-LP 120X. Now, I know that you recommended the AT-LP 5X, but it has no pitch control. My Fats Waller 78s may need pitch control. Am I the lost fourth group of buyer? Now, Yardbirds has been watching my vinyl system buyer's guide, which I recently published on this channel, and there's a link above if you'd like to see it. And, well, the 120X is a fine choice for 78 play. By all means, go with that. One point to note, if you find yourself drifting ever further into the world of 78s, and I've known people to get heavily into this, consider adding a second 78 only cartridge. Now with the 120X, you can do this pretty easily by putting the 78 cartridge, installing it into its own head shell. All you have to do is hot swap. You can go from normal stereo cartridge and then flip it over to the 78 cartridge. It only takes a moment. Now a 78 cartridge is made for 78. So for example, the stylus tip will probably be a lot larger. Also, if you do feel that 78s are becoming a larger part of your hobby, then give Sound HiFi a ring. Actually call them and talk to the boss there, whose name is Dave Corley. I'll put a link and I'll put his name in the description. Now, he is a specialist in the field. He offers a range of hardware to cater for 78 play, and that includes stylus kits. So you buy like a box of 6 different styli, and one is great for worn discs, another is great for later edition 78s. There's another there especially good for 78s released by Pathé or Edison Diamond. All these little nuances, they all make a difference. He also offers phono amplifiers sporting different EQ curves depending on the record label, because the EQ curve that we all use now with vinyl, which is the RIAA curve, which has been in use for decades now, well, back then, in the 78 era, RIAA, I'm not even sure if it was around. If it was around, it certainly wasn't a default. It wasn't even dominant. There was a whole host of EQ curves. So if you apply the right curve to your Fats Waller 78s, they'll sound different. They'll probably sound the way they're supposed to sound. Now, this sort of specialized kit varies in price wildly. There is a host of equipment which is reasonably low price, and then you can go way up into the stratosphere to high-end archive quality stuff. But look, I'd recommend, as I say, actually giving Dave a ring. Tell him about your personal situation. Ask him if he can recommend any hardware while keeping you in budget. And I hope you have a lovely time with your 78s. Now a question from Mod Jesus, which is a fine name, isn't it? Hello, Mod Jesus. Well, I think it's he or she says, great video. Well, thank you very much. What are your thoughts on the Fluence RT82 turntable? Now, Mod Jesus was also watching my recently published Budget Vinyl System Buyer's Guide. Now, I've reviewed both the Fluence RT81 and the RT83. I think I've done both. I've certainly done both on my website. I think I've done both on this channel. I'll put links one after another up there, and you can check them out yourself. But I haven't reviewed the 82, basically because, well, I never received one for review. And the reason for that, well, Fluence didn't and still does not have a presence in the UK. So it's tough for me to grab review samples. The 81 and the 83 were all I could get at the time, mainly because I talked to a friendly Fluence staffer who happened to be in a good mood when I called. This also meant that I couldn't test the 85 either, as much as I wanted to. Well, from a distance, it looks like a fine design. Yes, you've got that caveat of that partly automatic system, which will add a little bit of noise. The tone arm it's fine, not amazing. However, the plinth is nice and heavy, which will enhance the bass response. You get a very friendly interface. It's very easy to use. The cartridge is better than the 81. You get an Audiophile OM10. So in a way, it's a sort of, the 82 is a sort of souped up 81. The 81 and then some, you might say. I'll put a link to my 81 review in the description. Have a read of that, and then just consider the 81 to be a rung above in terms of performance. And our final question comes from Amanio. I'm going to say Amanio. Forgive me if I'm wrong, Amanio. And the question is, now, Amanio has been watching the video, the review of the Q Acoustics 3030i, which are a little bit bigger than the 3020i's. And he or she says, are they still good value 2 years later? Would you recommend them for low volume, very near field desktop use, 50 centimeters, or some other speakers fit that case better? Thanks. Well, Amanio, and hello, by the way, the 3030i speakers remain brilliant value, and I still highly recommend them. But they may be a little large and a bit too overwhelming for near field use. I would actually recommend the smaller original 3020 speakers, not the i version, the original 3020 speakers from the same company, Q Acoustic. They will be a better fit for a typical desk, and they're cheaper. They cost £149. I'll put a link down below so you can check them out. I think you can buy them directly from the company. Good luck with that one. And before we look at our answer for the trivia question, let's do a hint, a tip. Some of you may not like this one because it may change how you see the aesthetics of your hi-fi in terms of speakers. However, I always listen to speakers with the grill off, unless the speakers have the grill fixed in place. If I have the option, I always take them off. Now, whenever I receive a pair of speakers in for review, I'm always told that the grill is acoustically transparent. Oh yeah, and it doesn't really matter. But in most cases, I tend to disagree. I find that removing the grills from speakers produces a more spacious sound, a more naturalistic mid-range and slightly more sparkling treble as well. Ultimately though, for you, I would test the speakers with the grills on and then with the grills off. By all means, live with each one for a bit. Give that sound time to sink in into your head, and then remove the grills and see what you think of the difference. Is it an improvement or not? And that's it, folks. That's it for this video. And you need an answer to that trivia question. So let's do that. And the question is, which of the following never did actual jail time? Was it Hugh Cornwall, lead singer of the Stranglers as was, Johnny Cash, Chuck Berry, James Brown, or Notorious B.I.G.? And the answer was Johnny Cash. His concerts at St. Quentin and Folsom prisons, together with a few nights in the cooler here or there, may have helped carve out an image as one of nature's outlaws, but in fact, Cash was the only one on the list who never did actual jail time. Hugh Cornwall did time for drug offences, Chuck Berry for an offence under the Mann Act, James Brown for theft, and then years later for assaulting a police officer, and the Notorious B.I.G., otherwise known as Christopher Wallace, for dealing in crack cocaine. Lovely. Anyway, now you know. And that's it, folks. Thank you very much for staying to the end of the video. And if I could ask you once more to, down yonder, click on the like and subscribe buttons, please, which really does help the channel to grow. So it's pretty darn important, folks. So please, if you can, I'd appreciate it. I'd also appreciate if you could check out my Patreon page, which has lots of exclusive stuff over there. In fact, it's becoming, well, I've turned it into a bit of a hub. So if you go to my Patreon page now, if you join that, everything I do will be on Patreon. And I mean everything. So if I've done something different or I posted something on YouTube, you'll see it on Patreon. If I post something on my website, it'll be on Patreon. If I do a unique post on social media, Instagram, whatever, it'll be on Patreon. Patreon now is going to be a central hub for everything I do. So if you don't want to miss anything, because all you're looking at here are my YouTube videos, I do a lot more than that, then please have a look at Patreon. Also, down below are links to my Facebook group, and you're welcome to join that, and my website, of course, which has unique posts on there. And I will be back on Monday with, well, a bit of a special one for Monday. And it's going to be vinyl orientated. And, well, I will tell you more then, but it is new for me, never done this before, something a bit different, and I hope you like it. Not sure if you will, but I hope you do. Anyway, we'll see. Hey, check out Monday and I will reveal all. Until then, folks, bye bye for now.